let's talk a little bit about how you got started, because you're only 23 and you got 110 doors already, right? Yep. So obviously, a lot of people would love to hear your story because it's only been 3 years.
Yeah, 3.5 years. I got started as a real estate agent. I was originally going to go to a prestigious college. That was my big thing. My family was a huge college advocate. Ended up going to Tacoma Community College because it was cheaper.
Yep.
And someone online messaged me through Facebook. They said, hey, you should get your real estate license and drop out of college. So I did what any rational would do. And I listened to this stranger on the internet. So I dropped out of college, got my real estate license. It was actually in the opposite order of that. And I proceeded to sell 0 houses for the first 6 months. After 7 months, I ended up selling a duplex. One of my old gymnastics buddies, I coached gymnastics for years, called me up and said, hey, can you help me buy a house? I said, what if you bought a duplex? I'd read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And so I told him to buy a duplex. He did. He bought in Bremerton, about an hour from Seattle, where we're both from.
Yep.
And that was the start of my career. 3 months after that, I ended up buying a seller finance 12-plex. 0 money down, that was on the market.
How'd you figure that one out?
That was a fun roundabout story. There was another broker in the office who was doing the opposite of me, making tons of money, selling a lot of deals. They had a client who was under contract on 22 units in a little town called Moses Lake.
I know Moses Lake. Yeah, I used to wrestle there in high school.
Really? It's a Grant County area, and 22 units. It was a 4-plex, a 6-plex, and 12. All seller financed. It was $1,450,000, $300,000 down. Well, the person who was funding that down payment, private investor, did not want to fund this person. They didn't believe they were going to do good by the property. They were also the managing broker of the real estate agency that I was at. So they came to me and said, Cody, what if you bought this thing? Was the story is worth more than the real estate?
Yeah.
And that's where I learned that from. That's a big thing for me. I love the story. And this would be a cool story. And I think you can do it. And it would cash flow $5,000 a month, 0 money down. Well, the problem was we needed a 1-week extension for that deal. I needed $300,000. He was going to line it up for me. He was going to do all of it. Fell in my lap. It was a perfect deal. I needed a 1-week extension from the seller, and they said no. So I didn't get that deal. And I looked on the MLS. It's the first time I heard of seller financing. I ended up listening to Carlton Sheets.
Yep.
He had an audiobook.
Old school.
I had a 1991 Miata, so I was driving over there. I was listening to Carlton Sheets. And then I read a book, Deals on Wheels by Lonnie Scruggs, because my mentor at the time gave that to me. He was the real estate broker.
Nice.
And so I was reading all this, and I looked up seller financing on the MLS, and there was a 12-plex. And I called them up. It was still available, right next to Microsoft, next to the church, next to the school.
Nice.
I asked the broker how they wanted it written up. They said, they laid out the term, and they accepted the offer.
So let's back up just a little, because I feel like there's a lot of terms people aren't going to understand and things like that. Basically, you knew we wanted to get into multifamily, and you looked at seller financing. So can you explain for people that don't know what seller financing is, that you would not have been approved for traditional financing because you had no money coming in? So you instead went to these sellers and said, hey, let me buy the building from you if you finance me. And so what's the benefit for those listening to the seller for financing you? Why wouldn't they just sell it to somebody that can get traditional financing?
Most people pitch it off of tax benefits. What I've found to be true, I used to think that was true. It's not. That is not the reason people do it. There's a point where people have more money than they have life. They get to that point, and it's easier to pass a note to their kids as a financial instrument than it is to pass real estate. Because most kids aren't interested in their parents' business. I've seen that to be different with you. It's really cool.
Right. I would agree with that. Yeah. So what you find has to be perfectly, things have to be aligned. But he's right. In other words, the kids want the annuity of the payment. They don't want to manage the property.
So now they're getting a monthly payment from you, and they're not having to deal with the actual business portion of it.
And the thought process is, instead of giving your child a bunch of cash or a property that they could mess up, they could mismanage and let a whole bunch of vacancies and destroy the value, they just get income.
Right.
They can blow all the income and get it again.
And it's tax efficient because it comes in over a period of time, right? So it's not a lump sum.
So was there pushback with your parents on what initially, obviously not now because you're successful, but initially were they like, Cody, what are you doing?
There was a lack of understanding.
I like that. I like that term.
23 years old. He's very diplomatic.
What do they say? Because I know people that are listening are dealing with that, whether it's from their husband or wife or their parents or whoever.
Until you do it, you haven't done it. You don't understand. And in theory, I knew what I was doing, but in practical application, I couldn't simplify it down to where they could understand. So it wasn't their fault, it was mine. But they had never done it before. Never owned a duplex, never owned a rental.
Right.
They owned the house, then they split, and then my mom kept that house, and my dad went out and bought another house. And that was in 2008 when everything was an inflated price and
Yep.
went back down.
Yep.
It took years for him to build the equity back up, but he held it. But they didn't understand because they couldn't look to anybody in their sphere. My dad done corporate route. My mom worked at State Farm for a long time and then ended up moving to a law firm after a while to manage teams. So they didn't understand the world. So when I bought my first rental, they're like, that's really exciting, but you have $1.1 million in debt.
So why don't we jump into your business partner?
Okay, so
Uh-oh, here we go.
no, this is great because we actually laughed about this because this happened for my partnership. Typically, the spouse or the significant other just has a feeling, and there's a radar that can go off.
I've told you guys.
And if it's either, hey, this is a go, or there's something fishy about this. And my very first partnership, before I met Christian, he worked at the same company I did, and his wife, they've been married for 4 years. I don't know about that guy, talking about my partner at the time.
Because it's true, and women do have like that sixth sense, and you just at least need to take it into consideration when you're picking a partner.
Business partner's Christian, and then I ended up becoming really good friends with Danny, his wife. She, at the end of the day, says yes or no to that. Yeah, we viewed Christian, we being Christian and myself, we viewed our partnership as it's not 50-50, it's 100-100. We split everything 50-50. I can't value someone's 100% being worth more than mine or less than mine.
Right.
Because they could be sick, or things can happen, but I just trust that he's going to do his best.
Yeah.
And we don't compete, we don't renegotiate, regardless. So we've got a business cycle. You build the portfolio, you stabilize it, you optimize it, and you pay it off.
Well, this has been obviously amazing. So, Cody, what's the best? I know you have a big presence online too. So let's talk about that. Why don't you tell everybody what it is?
Yeah, so I'm on YouTube, and Cody and Christian, my business partner, multifamily strategy. We talk about our strategy.
Yep. And we'll put that up on so everybody can check that out. Yeah, of course.
Buy and hold, and primarily just how do you buy and how do you never lose it? Because we have 3 criteria when it comes to buying real estate. How you buy it, which is you line up your deal, then your debt, then your equity. How do you never lose it, which is long-term fixed rate debt and cash flow.
That last part is really important. I remember I always tell this to her, don't I? Always. I go, she's like, when are you going to stop?
I know.
Right? What do I say?
When it stops being fun.
That's it. I'm not kidding. Like, I have to be enjoying what I'm doing, especially at this point. And I'm enjoying everything I'm doing right now. And you're right. That is a big, big, big piece. If you got anxiety and stress and you're freaking out, then it's probably not worth it, right? Thank you. This has been great. Thanks for making the trip down here. All right.